I had a dream. I wanted my own clothing.
In your case, would be saying, I'm not a man, I'm a woman.
I say, well, I want to sell 250 trucks. You know what? I told myself I'm going to sell 250 trucks in 90 days.
If you wouldn't sell, if I wouldn't sign up, I wouldn't be where I am today.
90% of my customers are men, and women deal very well with men because we deal with them differently than men do to men.
You are the women, and this is the man industry.
You were so happy before. I don't know why you made this choice.
Listen, my mind is not a file cabinet.
It's your mind, you're the instruction manual, and you have to set the direction that you want to go.
Welcome to Escape the Matrix podcast with Ella Rivkin.
All right, okay, welcome back to the Escape the Matrix podcast, and I'm your host, Ella Rivkin, and this show is about breaking free from the invisible barriers, mental, financial, and social, and learning how to live a life by design, not by default. Today's guest is someone who lives this philosophy to her core. She is a 10x certified business coach and a top performer in the trucking industry in sales. And she is also a woman of deep resilience, and she is an immigrant, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and here it is, a black belt, a living example that nothing is impossible when you take a full ownership of your mindset and action. She believes success and freedom are not found, they are created, and everything you want is already all in your hands. Please welcome my coach, mentor, and a friend, Paola Ventura.
Oh my goodness, Ella. I just feel so good about that welcome. Okay, I'm feeling good about, yes, these are all the things that I believe in. But when you hear it, I'm gonna lie, it's gonna make me feel pretty good.
Yeah. Well, listen, you deserve it. I mean, like, you are all of this. This is amazing. So, Paola, thank you so much for joining us. And now that I mentioned all the success and the freedom that you created for yourself, so you say success and freedom comes when you take full ownership of your mindset, actions, and results, because everything we want is already in our hands. So what was that defining moment for you in your life when you realize this truth and then you realize enough is enough?
You know, I think some of the things that you pointed out for me is having a difficult childhood. And for me, it was that I didn't have any adult that was going to do that for me. Right. And so I realized at a very early stage that if it was to be, it was up to me.
I love that. If it was to be, then it's up to me. Wow, this is so powerful. I love that.
Right. And, so that was what it is. And, as an immigrant and my mother was a single parent, I started working first as an oldest child at a very young age. I was responsible for my young siblings. And then coming to this country, we had the opportunity, and I had a dream. I remember a 10-year-old little girl in Portugal. In Portugal at that time, they did not allow little girls to go to school. 5th grade was all that it was up to be. And, your future is you're going to be a mother or wife, whatever. And frankly, I had seen how well that had panned out for my mother. So it wasn't my life dream. And I dreamed of coming to America and taking ownership and just wanted an opportunity. And, it took us a while before the process to come here. So by the time I arrived in the States, I was 12 years old. And I will say that period where my father had left my mother and we were coming to the States, my imagination was just going. That was what the dream just festered, and it just understood that it's like, I think, with the racehorse or anything else, they're there, they're training, they're just ready. And then when you get here, it's like, okay, this is what I wanted to do, and it's my time. And so I think that's when that happened to me.
Oh, I love this. And I think, me and you, we have a similar story. So you said that you came here when you were 12 years old.
Yes.
Yeah, so I came here when I was 14 years old. So I assumed you were working since then. When did you start working?
Well, I was working before that because as the oldest child, we always worked. But yes, my mother used to clean working buildings. She was a subcontractor, and I helped take my siblings to school, do homework, and then my aunt would drive me to this building, and we would work from 10 to 2 o'clock, come home, go to bed, get up, take my siblings to school. So I became the life partner for my mom. She didn't have a husband. So I became the person that helped raise the siblings, and then we would go to work. So I could not wait till I was 16, because at that point in time, all the check went to my mom, and we had, hand-me-down clothing. I had a dream. I wanted my own clothing.
Yeah.
16 years old. I got my first job. I went out like the day that I could get, I think I was 15 and a half, to a Burger King. And I got I showed up, and I was like, I want to work here because I wanted to get my own check and then contribute to my mom. And then I just continued from there. But what I realized was you have a finite time. And very early, I realized that if I'm going to work this X amount of hours, then how much can I make? And so my whole thing has been, how do I push myself to the next level? I don't believe in getting a raise as the way to justify, because it's somebody's idea of what your worth is. And I figured it out very early on that it's, I've never asked somebody for a raise. I'm always just asking, what would that pay? Or if I want to make this, what do I have to do? Right? That was always the conversation for me, because, and when I became a dealership manager, I was a very young person at a dealership. That is how I spoke to my employees. Let's talk about what you want. Let's talk about what skill set you need to have to get you there. And so I've been very privileged to mentor people as a manager for a long time in a truck dealership world. And that was always my conversation with them. And then finding individuals like myself who are driven to push themselves to the next level.
I love that. I love that. So you did mention right now the trucking industry. We're actually going to get back to that because I'm curious, and I'm sure the viewers as well. How is it to be a woman in the trucking industry? But before we're going to get there, so as I mentioned, we have very similar situations. So you came at 12, I came at 14. My mom is single mom too. It was me and my brother. And me as an oldest one, I needed to work, and I started working at 14, taking care of myself, my brother, and helping my mom as well. So very similar industry. So the similar story. So then you mentioned something which stood out to me, the ownership, taking ownership. So what would you say to our viewers that are listening and watching this? Is how does someone actually takes ownership if those that are not happy with their life situation right now? So like, what would that mean to take ownership?
Well, I think it's like, I think it's about saying you can only control yourself, right? We can decide to have self-pity and woos me about everything, or you can control the situation by being in control. Right? And Grant speaks about this all the time, right? So Grant talks about it, even if it was an accident. Did you choose to leave the house late? Could you have left early? And so anytime that you come from a place of, what could I have done different? Maybe you're in sales and maybe you didn't get the deal. Well, that's an opportunity to go back and say, what did you do? What could you have done different? And consistently look at yourself as the solution. And I think that individuals who are successful, we're a little bit of control freaks. Would you agree?
Tell me about it. I know, I'm for sure.
So I think that's the secret, is it's always looking at yourself and saying, how could I have done different? What, and then really analyzing the situations. And I think that's it. And feeling empowered to consistently grow and be really tough on yourself and say, okay, this is my problem. How am I going to fix this?
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you mentioned how you can do this different. This is amazing. It's always asking yourself the how. It's interesting you mentioned that because I have a life-changing moment. I mean, I had many life-changing moments in my life. I'm pretty sure you too. So 10 years ago, I was going through these life challenges, and I think so. I got into the accident. Now, the way that I reflect back then, I think it's like it happened for me. so that I needed to get on the right path. But anyway, when this thing happened, I remember I was speaking to my mom, and then she told me, you tell me too if you have this. But like whenever, like you, especially like now, right now with the social media, you put all this stuff about yourself, how great you're living, and then you are afraid that someone will like put a spell on you and like a bad eye. And then like my mom goes to me, it's like when this accident happens, she goes to me, the first thing she tells me when I call her, she's like, oh, that's because like you're putting all this stuff on social media, people jealous, and then like they someone put a spell on you. So basically it's just, okay, you looking for someone's fault and playing the victim. But somehow in that moment particular, something clicked in my mind, and I didn't want to hear that. Typically I would, I actually started asking myself different questions. It's okay, like what is this accident trying to teach me? So, and I think you mentioned like how we can do things differently. So it's asking ourselves these different questions. And this is when we actually can start looking in our life in a different way and get the answers to it. So thank you for sharing that. I love that.
And I really believe in that. And I do believe, however, there are things when with this accident, you have a choice, right? I think these are the paths when individuals are looking to make changes, is things happen. And those are the moments. There are important forks on the road. And like you said, big decisions. I can think of several times that either something happened that you have to make a choice, or you make a choice and make something happen, right? I've had 3 important career choices. I'm going through one right now specifically. I decided to leave somewhere. You and I spoke about this briefly. I was very comfortable. I was very well known in California. I had a book of business that meant I had an existing customer base. I was very comfortable. And my husband actually shared with me that he said, I think you need a change because you're bored, right? So I was very comfortable. I was, a good amount of money income. And purposely I said, so I'm not growing. I'm not developed. And so I decided to move to a new state and start all over again with my trucking company, with a new company, and to start my coaching and my mentoring business, because I also felt that there was a need in me to give more and to help others. And so here I am, starting all over again. And you got to go through these difficult choices. And there are times in life, for instance, sports. So I'm a black belt, and I do a lot of like things like climb mountains and hike and run. I've done marathons, and there are times when physically you're going through something, and then you tell yourself, now why, for the love of God, did I think that this was a good idea? I was perfectly fine. I was perfectly capable. And here I am struggling. My tummy hurts. I don't have the time that I want. Maybe my income setback, but it's a goal. And on the other side of that, you're going to be different and things are going to be better. And it's pushing yourself through that. And that's something that I've done to myself about 2 or 3 times. And it's very important for me. But I'm going through that right now, and I question it. I'm like, you were so happy before. I don't know why you made this choice.
No, and I'm totally with you on that. But you see, like your husband tells you you're ready for the change to move on. With me, a little bit of the opposite. So my husband is telling me, okay, everything is good, we're comfortable, we're good. Like, why are you creating these problems for yourselves? And then, but it's interesting you mentioned, I am like that too. So I feel inside of me when I feel when I feel too comfortable, when I feel bored. Okay, so now I gotta go and create something new for myself. And my husband would tell me, okay, you're creating new problems, which you need to conquer them and then to feel successful. But you know what? I wanted to share with you something. So a couple of years ago, I think it was, so I'm like in this, I started in this spiritual journey, and I think it was Sadhguru that I was listening to, and he was actually saying that like we need to put ourselves into these challenging situations, because as you mentioned, like we get too comfortable, And then in order for us to get to that other side, this is like when we put ourselves through this new uncomfortable situation, into these challenges, and this is what pushes us and helps us to grow. So in the beginning I was thinking, okay, there's probably maybe something wrong with me, as my husband is saying, why am I doing that? But then when I heard it from the spiritual leader, I was like, okay, you know what? And then Grant talks about this as well. I was like, okay, actually I'm doing the right things.
That's exactly correct. And, and I think it's, and I think with Grant specifically, like when we know, for instance, we want to reach some goals. And I think that the point of your podcast is this, right? So I've always had a belief on the ability I had to do more. And Grant teaches us that if you could do more, then you should do more.
I
And
love that. Yeah.
while, my mom would be the one that says, filha in Portuguese, she would say, but you have this, you have this, you have a husband, you have this. Why? Right? And it's because that there's a light inside of you that's not fulfilled, and there's more that you can do. And for me, I'm in my 50s. Really, I'm starting to think about legacy, right? The legacy that I have. I have 2 young granddaughters and a grandson. And so I look at these 2-year-old granddaughters and I think, what is it that I want them to observe? And it's not just a financial gain, but also I think about how I raised my kids, right? I was a very young parent in 19, 20, 21. And then I see who I am now. And what I'm sharing with my granddaughters the days that I'm with them, and it's a different thing and a different opportunities, because I'm a different person.
Yeah.
And so I think very much about legacy and what that means going forward. And that was part of this change. Part of this change was, what could I do in the future for the legacy of my young family?
Yeah, and I'm totally with you. And now that you mentioned that, being a mother, a grandmother, running your own business, and those that are watching us, our viewers, especially women, many women, and I hear this, and I used to be like that too. So we say, like, we have we have the children, we have the family to take care of, the grandchildren, and the business. So we turn this into the limitations. So many people would say and see this as a limitation, but you actually turn this into the power. So what would you suggest for those that are listening and viewers, how to turn this into the success instead of looking at it as a limitation?
Well, I think it is looking at it as a responsibility, right? It's a responsibility to set forward. And I think being a mother and a grandmother is very important. Now, I will say that the reason that I can do all these things is because I have a very strong support system, right? I have a life partner, a husband that is a grandfather, and a son, a dad, and we share that responsibility because we have mutual goals on what it is we want for our family, what we want for our finances. And so for me, I will say that the reason I feel I've been very successful is because right in the beginning, I lined myself up that believed and supported me. Whether I am, in my young years, I had a very stressful job, and I would go to work, and sometimes I would come home and cry. And that's okay. I think it's okay to share those feelings. And there's times that I want to do more for my grandkids, but right now in the time frame that I don't have the time. But I will share that with him. It would be really nice if the girls got to do this, and my husband goes, "So you want me to do that for them?" So, right. So I think it's also being that support system. And that's really where I think it starts, is understanding that we can't do it all, but we have a community, we have a system, right, that can help us support that. And so I think that's how I've been able to get so much done.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, thank you so much. So then let's switch gears a little bit and talk about so you are being also a coach as well. So as the coach, what would you say are the most common mental traps that keep people stuck in this matrix?
It's the limited belief. It's really very unfortunate that people don't have that belief, that they don't see that. And, we have to raise our belief little by little. And what I always have folks do is think, okay, let's do some goals, right? Think 1, 3, and 5 year goals, and really just kind of put everything on paper. Things you thought about a child, you might want to run a marathon, you want to earn a certain amount of money, and you have to do that. And I know that you and I have the same habits in that in the morning we get up, we write down our goals, we exercise, and we take a moment to ourselves to really give to ourselves what we need before we can give to others. And this habit, I think, single-handedly has changed my life. If I was going to encourage anybody, I would encourage them to do that. And then it's a matter of also understanding, if I have a 1 year goal, you have to break it down into action steps. And I live very closely on a 12 weeks. So instead of having a whole 365 days to make excuses, I say, I only have 90 days. And you compress that down and you get so much more, because in essence, you have four times in a year to be successful. And I don't look at it as if it was a quarter or a piece. I say, well, I want to sell 250 trucks. You know what? I told myself I'm going to sell 250 trucks in 90 days. Just like your goal was very short, very concise when you became a coach, and you achieved so much more. You might not have gotten exactly what you wanted, but you didn't give yourself the grace to say, well, I have until the end of the year. Nope. This is short, compressed, and it's action time. And then it's measuring what you did today, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, okay, I'm not going to sell 250 trucks, but I need to speak to 50 people. I need to call 50 people. So when you break it down to actions, then the results show up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm all about numbers as well, too. So that's actually, this is a phenomenal concept, because I think it's for everyone. Like you just mentioned, like for myself, when I used to set up the goals in the beginning, when you set up for the whole year, if you want to make $1 million, you're thinking, oh my God, it's just impossible. And then you start procrastinating and not doing anything at all. But then when you divide it over 365 days, and then you just do it every day, like over 52 weeks, over 12 months, quarterly. So then this is all becomes achievable. And yeah, and I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, that's how I live. I live myself 90 days at a time. I'm like, okay, 90 days, this is the goal. I break it down. And sometimes you're writing that same goal for 4 quarters. But when you hold yourself down to that, there's a sense of urgency that creates you to move forward. And the big thing is, I think there's no time for doubt.
Yeah.
I think that's the secret.
Yeah, I love that. I actually, now that we're talking about breaking the days, so I turned 50 this year, and I mean, it's just a number, but then deep down, it's like I wasn't like so excited about that. But then I was, again, like spiritually, I was listening to this lecture. I remember who was sharing, and I actually really like this concept. Like everyone is saying, we have like one life to live. So, and then if you look at it, okay, like for me, okay, I turned 50, so I lived 50 years. But then if you break this down into a number of weeks and days, so then I was like, oh my God. So for me, I already lived, today it's 18,397th day. And then when you actually looked, like when I wrote, and I actually write this down for myself, whenever I do my morning goals, I write the day. And like, this is so exciting, because I had over 18,000 days. That's like, if you do 1-2 things in that one day, so eventually you throughout your whole life, you do like 18,000 different experiences, 18,000 different opportunities. So like, this is amazing when you start breaking everything down in numbers.
And now I'm excited. I can't wait to get when we leave the podcast. I'm going to do the same thing, because actually, I really like that. It makes you feel more like you've lived more.
Exactly. Like when that was my birthday, and then I was like, I was like, I wasn't that excited about hitting 50, and then I was listening to this spiritual lecture, and I was like, oh my God, I love that. So I actually had like this over 18,000 days now. So now I'm keeping track of all the days. And whenever I want to achieve something, that was another thing. I think like for those of you that listening are super overachievers, like for me, I needed to do everything right away, right now. Do you have that kind of feeling too? It's like you get an idea, okay, let's just do it now. But now that I expanded and I gave you myself like all these days and I started calculating not years but days, I was like, okay, you know what? Okay, so today I'm going to create this. So tomorrow I'll create that. And then overall, that just amounts to so much.
I love that. I'm going to have to do that. And I mean, I'm going to compress it down from 90 days to every day and seeing how many. And I'm a little older than you. I'm 54, so I have more days, I bet I have more successes. I better get on it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, so you mentioned in the beginning about how, asking ourselves a different question, how can I do differently? So how does someone shift from I don't know how to actually find the way and say, yes, I will find the way?
I think you change that to how and who. I think Grant speaks about that today the new currency is collaboration, right?
Yes.
And so when you go with how and who, that I think is the thing. How can you do it is opens up the mind instead of so he says how am I going to do this, and who can help me is a big deal, right? That's how I start. I always start with how. And then, and I think when you ask that question, it things come differently. Your mind, people forget that whatever you believe here is going to happen. You actually are the storyteller of your life. Yeah. And when you sit back and say, okay, it's how I'm going to get there, who is going to help me? I have had so many people in my life whom have helped me with friendship, mentorship, collaboration, opportunities. Here we are meeting. I mean, we met, just a few weeks ago. Immediately we gravitated towards each other, and here we are, right? So that's my biggest thing is how. And if you go to sleep, and Grant teaches us that if you are doing something, he says, write your goals in the night too, because your mind actually will go to work for you during the evening to find solutions. And we were shared, and the last time we were on our cohort meeting, you had an idea of doing your system. It's the webinar you're doing. And very similar, that night I had the same idea. I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I woke up, I was like, I better not forget this, and I better write it down. I mean, because it came to me. I wanted to achieve something in the middle of the night. The idea came to me.
Yeah. Well, we learn from each other, and I do the same thing. So I do my goals in the morning. I do it in the evening, and even with my team. So I make them write the goals for the next day. And like in the beginning, they were like, okay, why do we need to do this? I'm just going to write them in the morning. Like, no, you write them in the evening. So then this way you're already activating this signal, because our brain, it's the signal. So we're sending the signal to that Wi-Fi signal to the universe. And like how you mentioned, and you start thinking about all the things that how you can do, what you can do. And then next day you have the goals, and now you have all these ideas and actions planned already to put into the reality.
I absolutely believe in that, right? It's we have everything here.
Exactly.
Right.
So basically, for someone who doesn't know how to start, way to start, so then just the first thing is to write down the goals, right? Just put it into the habit. And I love how you mentioned like the setting, the routine, the habits. So putting the goals, me and Paula, we write them in the morning, we write them in the evening. So definitely do that.
Yes. It's tremendous. I think it's very impactful because, it's easy to forget what it is you wanted to do, and then you get dragged down. And I feel like it builds an armor around my personal time and my commitments, and I don't get dragged down somebody else's rabbit hole, somebody else's goal. It's like, look, it's like a boat, right? If you have a boat in the ocean, it has to have directions. Otherwise, it's just wandering and floundering around. Think about it that way. It's your mind, you're the instruction manual, and you have to set the direction that you want to go.
I love that. I love that. And I say another thing to my team and to myself all the time, because I used to be like that too, like to keep everything in my mind. But then I learned the power of the writing. Listen, my mind is not a file cabinet. So like I shouldn't be storing it all in my mind. And then I started writing everything down, and it becomes so much easier, because once I write it, that's it. Like I forget about it because I know that's already written, and I can always come back to that.
I agree. I love
Yeah,
that.
I love that. Well, okay, so now tell me how actually, so that let's switch gears and talk about your the trucking industry. How a woman, how does a woman get in the trucking industry to begin with? And I'm pretty sure being a woman in the trucking industry, there was many challenges that you had to face. So if you can just share, I guess, few of the challenges, what fears did you have to go through, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I'm going to flip that around for you. I think it's an opportunity because yes, folks told me that it was a challenge, but to me, and for a while there, I felt the same way, but then I understood that actually, if I lean that, if the problem became the opportunity, and the opportunity becomes that instead of I'm competing with older white men. That's the trucking industry, okay? Not very diverse at all, especially 30 years ago. 30 years ago, it wasn't. And I thought, well, let's be honest. I stand out. I'm different. So lean into that.
Yeah.
And learn how to use that to my advantage, right? If I'm on social media and I'm creating video content, I'm going to stand out. Two people could be doing the same thing. You'll have a man and a woman doing it, but because I'm so unique, I'm going to use that to my advantage. I got that attention. And I think also because then in that industry, everyone that I was with was men. You got a dealership of 90 people and there's 5 women. So I also had an opportunity to be unique in that sense. And I've worked really well with men for a long time. And even on the customer, 90% of my customers are men, and women deal very well with men because we deal with them differently than men do to men. Right. And then I also felt like my way of communication is very informative. And so I really leaned into understanding what the customer's needs are, really becoming an expert in their needs and understanding. Then I became about solution-based problem. So okay, who are you, Mr. Customer? What is your problem? And then I would, in my mind, translate that to them on how my product is going to solve their solution, right? Where men talk in different terms, I was very unique that I'm presenting to big companies and I'm saying, this is what you're trying to do. Yes. Yes. Okay. Here's how I think my problem can solve this problem. And it had a lot of it around to the comfort of drivers, the safety, the operations. I went to school for accounting, so I always added a lot of value on financial planning and the overall cost of the truck, and offered often to do driver's training. So, and I got to tell you, my dear, that if a woman shows up at a work yard driving a truck, you're immediately respected. They think you're a queen. I told my husband, if I ever needed to get married, I'm going to drive a truck to a workplace. All the men are like, oh, she drives a truck. So that's, to be honest, but I will tell you that it's interesting. I did not pick that industry. And I want to say this to your listeners. I was a stay-at-home mom, and my husband lost his job. And I was very young. I was a stay-at-home mom. And, so this was an immediate problem for our family. And I had a 3-year-old and I had a 5-year-old. And so I wanted to get a part-time job. I found a place that hired me Friday through Monday. And because then I only had to have childcare for 2 days. Literally, this was how I got in the trucking industry. And from there, I just needed an opportunity. I told you how I'm always looking for that next income and that next opportunity. And that's how I got into the trucking business, completely by accident. And I didn't but it gave me an opportunity. All I needed was an opportunity. The owner of that dealership was an immigrant man, and he had a daughter that was about my age. So I don't think he had limitations on what a woman could do. It was very forthcoming of him to have a young lady to do it. And I remember as I went through different promotions that he, at one time, he came and asked me what at this big position, I was going to be to be the manager of this store. And Ella, I literally told this man every reason why I wasn't qualified. I said, I've never managed people, and this is going to be, and I proceeded to, because those were my limitations.
Yeah, but yeah, that's exactly, because the limitations we have are only those we put on ourselves. And we give ourselves all these excuses. We don't know. We're not, in your case, would be saying, I'm not a man, I'm a woman. I have 2 kids. I have to take care of the kids. I have to do this. So like, these are all the excuses. So these are the limitations we put only on ourselves.
Correct. But I was very fortunate that he did not see that. He just went ahead and said, well, but here's the thing that you do have, right? He had a problem. Let's be honest. He had a problem. He needed a solution. And he had already asked a few of the men if they were interested in this position, and they weren't. And so he came to me, and I had a dream that I wanted to buy a house by 30. And he knew that. And he came to me, and I think this is also important. We have to share with others our goals. Let's talk about the goals that we have. And so this man knew that I was a hardworking girl and that I had a goal. And I didn't know how I was going to get there, but by God, I put down that I was going to buy a house by 30. And I was 29. So I was running out of time, really.
Yeah.
But he knew that. And so he came to me and he said, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. And I understood that I didn't have a college degree. I had been a stay-at-home mom. This is 2 years after I started working for this dealership. And I fundamentally understood that this man, who was a self-made millionaire, was giving me an opportunity to learn and be mentored by him. And he had the faith, and that I just had to put in the hard work. And it was a lot of hard work in a very, very stressful situation. But I understood that this path would forever change me. And I came home. I told my husband about it. We agreed on how we were going to figure it out, the kids situation. And I went back and I said yes. And it was the best decision that I made. And from there, I managed the dealership for 12 years. I grew from 5 people to 28 people. And then I wanted to go into sales because I wanted to prove myself. And there's no limited income. So that's when I started to recognize that even though I had such a successful job and career, I was tied to a brick and mortar. And the point of your podcast is think outside of that and to break free, where people would have said, now I've achieved the goal. I'm the manager of the store. I'm very comfortable. I have a car. I have insurance. And I had this nagging feeling coming up to 40. This is in my 30s, that if I stayed there, this was all that it was ever going to be. And I didn't want that for myself.
Oh, I love this. What is such a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing. So for those of you that are listening, and if you thinking that you have all these limitations, you don't have education, you are a woman, you're not a man, you have kids, you don't have time, whatever it is, then it's all possible. And I love how you mentioned, as Paula just mentioned, that every problem has a solution. And then there's a possibility to turn every challenge into opportunity. And Paula is a living proof of that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's interesting how you mentioned it also is that, like how you in the beginning, this is what you were thinking is that, okay, like you are the women and this is the man industry. And I think it's like the way that we're all programmed is to fit in and to do, there's certain things already that everyone needs to be doing. So like you were saying, okay, so like this is the men's industry. So that's the way that like we were programmed, right? And then there's a lot of the things in our life where we thinking that we need to be doing because this is what was given to us by the society. But it's all right to be different And this is, you are the living proof, because you were different, you were women in the men's industry, and you actually turned this into the opportunity. So for those of you that are experiencing some kind of challenges and you feel like, okay, it's time for you to get out, but you are thinking that you're going to go against the crowd, against the current, then it's okay. This is the sign that you need to take the first steps to get to that other side.
Yes, that is the opportunity. Lean into it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, now let me ask you this. So now that you are where you are today, so what does freedom means to you today?
Freedom to me means that I control my own hours, that I have freedom of income, that I have the ability to be very generous financially and provide, to my family. And then to have multiple sources of income.
Oh, I love this. I love this. Okay. Well, now I have something fun that I want to do with you, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm going to ask you the short, rapid questions, like this fire questions. So there is no right or wrong answer. Just give me a short answer.
Okay. I'm
All
ready.
right. Okay, let's start this. Morning routine or late night grind?
Morning routine.
I love that. One word that defines success for you?
Millionaire.
Love this. The best lesson you learned from being a black belt?
I'm little but mighty.
Immigrant hustle in one word?
Dream.
Leadership is?
Leading. Leading.
Okay, a book or a mentor that changed your life?
A mentor.
Would you like to share the mentor's name? I think I know who it is.
Grant Cardone.
Yes, this is my mentor too, and he changed my life too.
But the book was 10x. The book was 10x.
Oh, the book was 10x. I love that. Interesting, because I did another podcast with Ken Gee. I think you know Ken Gee too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I asked him the question too about the book. So he said the 10x. I love that. Yep. Interesting. All right. Okay. Sales is
life.
It is. Yeah, I would actually agree with you. And I think that I learned this definitely through Grant Cardone, and through his concept is, as much as we hate to sell, I think everyone hates to sell, like we hate salespeople, right? All this perception, but we sell every day to each other. Our kids sell to us, with spouses, we sell every day. So yeah.
It's life. I actually, I had a very negative impression before Grant. I had a very negative impression of what sales was. I thought it was somebody very sleazy and whatever. And I think that's those individuals who are not salespeople. They are they're a different type of. I'm a sales professional. I'm the number one female in the country for trucks, for the medium duty, my lane. And I work very hard. I use Cardone University daily. I study. I am a professional. And it's not about being tricky. It's about educating and giving value to the consumer. Because Ella, everybody has so much information nowadays. My intent is to show how to help you with a solution.
Yeah. I love that. I love this. Yeah, I love this. And I actually to what you were just sharing, I think we all had this experience. Sales is sleazy. So something interesting, because if not for that, me and you wouldn't know each other. So something interesting. So Elliot is the one who introduced me to the coaching. And then obviously, based on the Grant's training, the follow-up and the persuasion, and at some point, like, you get annoying when someone is trying to sell this to you. But I'll tell you that being a professional as he is and going through all of this, so when he sold me, when I actually physically signed up to become a 10x coach, a couple of weeks after that, I reached out to him and I said, thank you so much that you were persistent, that you followed through. and you made that sale, because if you wouldn't sell, if I wouldn't sign up, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yes.
So yeah, so it is
Big
everything.
Big Brother Dave is the one I called about. I was at a crossroads last year. This has only been, I've been around Grant for a long time, but in regards to the coaching program. And I spoke to him. So they're like, oh, you should talk to somebody. You've been in sales. And you know what he asked me? And he said, so I was like, well, I have the money. I may have the time. So, but I wasn't really sure, right? I wasn't like, I'm not sure this is what I want to do. And I said, well, let me think on it. And I said, sleep on it. And, he goes, so what are you going to sleep on it? What are you going to, and then he said, let me ask you this. He asked me what I was afraid of. And I said, I'm afraid of not having a legacy right before that, because he's very intelligent. And so I said, I'm going to sleep on it. And he said, so is that what you're going to tell your granddaughters when you don't fulfill your dreams? Is I slept on it? I signed up the damn contract immediately.
Wow, that was deep. Yeah.
and because he understood what my pain point was. My pain point was that I had turned, I was 52. I wanted to do more. I didn't know what. I searched this to look for information. And because he's so good, he understood from our 15-minute conversation what I was seeking. I didn't know what was out there, right? But I was open. I was searching for something. And he, in communicating with me, understood what my pain point was. And it's been the best thing. That's how I met you, and that so many other great individuals in this community. So he wasn't selling me on the I already had the money. I had the what to do. But he sold me on what it could do for me as a human. And I am so thankful. And I've also thanked them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. All right. Okay. So thank you for sharing. Let's go back to the questions. I have few left.
Okay.
The biggest myth about success.
The biggest what?
The biggest myth about success.
That it's ever fulfilled. It's never done.
Okay. What is your superpower?
I am what's my superpower? My mindset. I won't give up. I will never quit. I will die. My eyes will bleed before I quit.
I love this. I love this. All right. Money means.
Mighty means
money. No, money. Money means.
Oh, money. Freedom.
Love this. What do you tell women who doubt themselves?
We are the greatest thing in this world. Women can provide life. Women are the resource of comfort. We can be tough. We can be loving. And we have a tremendous sense of responsibility to humankind. Be thankful that you're a woman.
I love this. I love this. Yes, I love this. A daily habit that keeps you grounded.
I exercise every day.
Okay. One mistake business owners keep repeating.
They think that entrepreneurship or solopreneurship means themselves. Again, share your burden, get a team around, get a mentor, get involved in the community instead of having all the weight on your shoulders. Share that.
Oh, I love this. I love this. Okay. All right. What does freedom look like to you?
What does freedom look like to me?
Yep.
To live on my own terms. To not be tied to a store, to a building, to a country, to anything. Whatever it is I want to do, I'm going to go do it. That's freedom, right? If I want to work from California and go see my mom, I'm great. If I want to go see my granddaughters. And I think that's why your podcast is so important, because we tied ourselves to a building, to an employer, to a circumstance. And that's a prison sense. That 9 to 5, that's a jail that we've been conditioned to do it. I would rather bet on myself each and every time. The reason I'm in sales and I'm an entrepreneur is because I believe in myself. I am not going to give somebody the ability to decide what my worth is. It's my responsibility.
Oh, I love this. Believe in yourself. Keep believing in yourself, taking actions, and you can have everything that you want. Okay, so finally, I wanted to ask you this. So my life motto is "It's all in your hands." What does it mean to you?
To me, it's if it's to be, it's up to you.
Oh, yes.
I take full ownership. If it's to me, it's up to be. Another one, I'm a black belt, and my black belt motto is that people are waiting, right, for things to come to them. I believe that the only thing that comes to you is the leftovers from someone else. I want to go get it.
Oh, wow, this is so powerful. Okay. So if you don't want the leftovers, if you actually want to have the best of it, so then just go get it. Don't sit, don't wait, believe in yourself. And what are some of the last words of wisdom that Paula, would like to share with our viewers?
I just believe that you got to believe in yourself, right? And let's be honest, and I love what you said. Everybody says it's one life you have to live, right? Which is true, but it's actually not one life. It's all these different days that you have. And I love that philosophy that you taught me. And now I'm going to compute how many exact days to the day that I have been alive, and think about the opportunities that you have each and every day to do something that's important, to contribute to society, and to leave an impact. There's so many people where they don't have the freedoms that we have here in the United States. And if you're in this country, just by being here, you have opportunities. And if, like Grant says, if you could, then you should.
I love this. I think this is the perfect ending. So thank you so much, Paola. This is an amazing story for those that are listening. So you just heard Paula's story, being an immigrant, a mom, 2 children, grandchildren, woman in the men's industry, 3 different successful businesses. She had overcome a lot of different challenges, but she was able to turn them into the opportunities. So she's a living example that success doesn't come from the circumstances. It comes from ownership. You don't wait for the opportunities. You actually create them. You don't ask for permission. You claim your power. So for everyone listening, the biggest illusion in the matrix is that you need something outside of yourself to change your life. But in reality, you don't. Everything is already within you. It's all in your hands. Paul just proved that everything you need, it's all possible to have it. So it's your mindset, your decision, and your actions that determines your life and your success. Paula, thank you so much for being a force of leadership and transformation. To our audience, if you're ready to stop waiting and start winning, take this episode as your call to action, and always remember, it's all in your hands. And to those of you that have a powerful story that you would like to share with us, then please reach out to me, and you might be my guest on the next podcast. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, then please do so. And remember, financial freedom is all in your hands. I'll see you in my next episode.
Bye.
Welcome to Escape the Matrix podcast with Ella Rivkin.